Hey, thank you so much for watching. Look, if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe to the Volume Sports YouTube channel, and we will see you there. So it does beg the question here. Is the dominance of Alabama and Nick Saban, is this actually a good thing for college football?
I think it is. I do. I think there's nothing wrong with having that goal for every team to want to get to, for every fan base to bitch and moan like, hey, we want to be Alabama. I mean, what is everyone in the West and the SEC, and I guess you could say across the country, what do they always say? Hey, we want Nick Saban. We want the consistency. We want to be fighting for championships year in and year out. So there's nothing wrong with having that model of success to strive for, to be able to get there. So I'm all for it. I know there's some people that want to say, oh, it's not great that I always have, the playoffs are always the same and Alabama's always in the playoffs and Alabama's always in the, national championship conversation. Well, then get better, do better, and continue to find ways to be like Alabama. And what are some of the most successful teams that we've seen? Well, they're built by coaches that were under Nick Saban at one point. And right now, the closest thing to it is probably Kirby at the University of Georgia. He's taken that Alabama model, he's brought it to Athens. And I think, honestly, Kirby's built a product that is going to have long-term success, similar to what we're seeing in Tuscaloosa. So I'm all for it. I'm all for having that elite, whether coach, team, player. I mean, you talk about the MJs of the world. You talk about what Tom Brady's done in the NFL. You talk about LeBron when he was in his heyday and what he was doing, whether it's in Cleveland or LA or Miami. Like, I'm all for that champion because I love seeing the success. And with comes success, comes haters, come people that want to just rip you down. That's just part of the world we live in, not just sports, but in general in life. And I understand that, but I'm all for seeing someone kick some butt.
Well, invite me to the players hater ball here, Aaron, because no, F that dude. Screw Alabama. It's awful for the sport. I hate it. I hate it. It makes the sport legitimately boring. Like, you know what's going to happen every year. Imagine this. Let's hop in our time machines here and let's go back in time to the beginning of the BCS era, okay? A more innocent time. I mean, look at it. Okay, so we'll start at 1998 and we'll go through 10 years of national champions. Tennessee, Florida State, Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, LSU and USC, Texas, Florida, LSU, Florida. I mean, back and forth, different teams, different conferences, everybody having that legitimate feeling at the beginning of the year where, oh my God, maybe this can be our year. Maybe we can do it. Hell, if we go back to 1990, Georgia Tech and Colorado split a national championship. Like, there used to be hope and opportunity. Nick Saban, in his dominance, has snuffed that out. He's taken it and ground us down into nothing, and it's depressing. I mean, they've won since 2009, since the 10 years I just rattled off, they've won 6 of the last 13. The murder ball they play on the weekend is so boring. Like, when Alabama's on 2:30 at CBS, you know it's going to be garbage. Maybe it's exciting for a half, and in the second half, it's Gary Dan. And everyone's like, oh, Gary Danielson loves Alabama. No, he's calling Alabama games, and Alabama's kicking everybody's ass. What do you want to do? I would say this. If Alabama's success has had one positive, it's that they are irrelevant. The Alabama Crimson Tide are irrelevant to 99% of college football. Now, Aaron, your Georgia Bulldogs, Ohio State, maybe Oklahoma in recent years, these are teams that actually can concern themselves with Alabama. But from where I sit and from most of the country sits, like, I have about as much in common with Alabama as I do Elon Musk. Okay, they're up there in their gilded ivory tower.
Well, this is coming from a guy, an LSU guy, that they've won 2 national championships in the past 15, 20 years. I mean, you guys have had more success
that's true.
than anyone else. And so I don't want to hear the
story
over here that it's only Oklahoma, Georgia. LSU has had success versus Alabama, and let's not forget.
Okay. So let's take LSU a bit out of it then, because I feel you. Even though under 500 over the last 2 years, I'm in the mud, Aaron. I'm fighting for 8-4. Okay. You just worry about winning the East and like the SEC championship, which we know is going to be Georgia and Alabama. Y'all worry about that. I'm trying to worry about beating Mike Leach.
2 in 15 years. 2 in 15 years, T-Bob. 3 in 21. Thanks
Yeah, that's
to
true. Shout
Bilbo
out.
Baggins in the chat. Thank you. Shout out.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
shout
a
out.
lot
Okay,
of
okay,
national
okay.
championships for Mr. Boo-hoo LSU over there. Like, yes, I understand. Like, I think the product in the field from a consumer standpoint is the issue here. You know, you turn on to an Alabama game, and Saban's had some issues with this too. You know, he talks about, our fans are, they're leaving in the third, fourth quarter, but because you're beating everyone by 4 scores. Like, I understand, like, hey, let's go get to the bars and go celebrate and have some fun because, maybe we don't want to see the backups playing this afternoon. So I think that is the bigger issue for me is they just dominate everyone. I mean, literally every single weekend for the majority of the past 15 years, they're going to win a game by double digits, just the way it is. So I understand from a
Yeah.
consumer standpoint, you're kind of sick of seeing that. But once again, I'm in the mindset of I love seeing success. I love seeing someone be the absolute best at their craft. And right now, Nick Saban is the best coach. He's the best at what he does. What he teaches his players is the best. The coordinators, everything that goes into it, it's perfection. And I love seeing that. I'm sorry, like I want to see an engine moving the way it should. I want to see an offense and defense doing what they should. And Alabama right now, it's the closest thing to watching an NFL game when it comes to what they're putting on the field on both sides of the football.
So I do want to be clear about this, right? Do not mistake me saying Alabama is irrelevant as me somehow taking away from what Nick Saban has accomplished. It's unbelievable what he's accomplished. As he said, I used to actually like get hyped up for and argue against Alabama and talk to all my Alabama friends about how no, we're gonna get your ass this year or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And that has been literally beat out of me. Right? Like I constantly compare Alabama to the Roman Empire because I feel like one of the barbarian tribes. Like I feel like the Gauls, they have, despite all my, trying to rebel and whatnot, eventually they just ground me under their heel into submission. And you only do that through otherworldly sustained excellence. The only thing is, I think it's been good for the SEC. Okay, as we talk about SEC and Big Ten, I think, like you're saying, Aaron, it has challenged other schools to raise their own levels of facilities, processes, how they recruit, like everything top to bottom. And granted, it's led to a lot of turnover and it's led to Auburn having to pay like $80 million in buyouts. But, there's always going to be casualties along the way. But overall, if you look at the SEC football product right now, it's maybe in the best space it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every single team in the SEC West is in the top 30 on Bill Connolly's S&P Plus. Get to that a bit more in a second. And a lot of them have ties to, like you said, Nick Saban. So no doubt he has cracked some code that has increased the quality of the conference. In an ideal college football world, I wish you could get to a more NFL level of parity where, yeah, certainly you're going to have your dominant franchises that kind of feel like they're there year in and year out. But it would be maybe a bit nicer if there were, a larger grouping of teams where I enter the season. I feel like, okay, they can legitimately win a national championship. Maybe an expanded playoff gets us there. But the thing is, I mean, if we're being honest, I don't know about you, Aaron, I don't feel like it does as long as Nick Saban is around and
Well,
he's
I
not
think
going anywhere.
Well, I think it does because to me, I think what Alabama's done better than anyone else is they've created a roster that is not just in the Southeast. It's not just Alabama. It's not Louisiana. But I mean, they're getting kids from Florida. They're getting kids from Ohio, and they're getting kids from California. I mean, you look at some of the quarterbacks they've had. I mean, they go to the West Coast, and what's the selling point? Like, why do you want to go to USC or UCLA and stay on the West Coast and not compete for championships, not have an opportunity to win the Heisman, not have an opportunity to get drafted in the top few rounds of the NFL draft? Come on to Alabama. We're on national television every single week. Mom and dad can see you. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt to get there, maybe, but still, turn on the television, come watch me every single weekend. So they are getting those kids from the West Coast. So I do think the one positive of expansion would be more opportunities for more teams to be in the playoffs, to have that feeling you alluded to, like, man, if I'm a team 5 through 20 heading into a season, like, I know I'm not going to make the playoffs. So what am I really fighting for? And even when you and I played in the BCS era, like, it was depressing. Like, if we lost one game, like middle of the season, we're like, well, there goes our damn season. Like, we can't make the national championship, so this sucks. Like, it did. It sucked. Like, what is there left to fight for? So if there is that sense of, hey, man, we still got a chance, even if we lost 1 or 2 games, maybe even 3, to get into the playoffs, more TV exposure, more reasons for kids to possibly stay on the West Coast when we know California has plenty of talent on that side of the country, I think can add to more competitive games, more competitive leagues compared to what we're seeing now, where it's like, hey, we know there's only 4 teams in it. Alabama's going to be one of them. And if I want to play in the playoffs, then I'm going to leave the state of California or Texas or Washington and go play in the SEC.